Hey folks, it's Lunch with Mal that may or may not be live in our Facebook group as well. I've had trouble with that the last few times. This time it said it went live, and now it appears to be stuck. So I guess we'll see what happens. I feel like not stressed about it. Nope, it's failing again. This is really frustrating that you just can't stream into Facebook groups anymore. I guess we can get Jill to put a post in the Facebook group linking to my profile. And man, it's so upsetting though. They remove the ability for you to like stream directly in from third-party things, and now it's just like not even working anymore. I want to figure out an entirely different way of doing this. Anyway, how's everyone doing? How's life treating everyone? Long time no see. I feel like it's been forever since Lunch with Mal. Um, I had a surgery. Oh, I sent you a message in the wrong chat. I heard the message in the chat with our daughter. I had surgery, and then I got COVID, which I'm still getting over. Our whole family got it. I mean, it's possible it's the flu, but it feels a lot more like COVID. Um, Partially just like in the particular onset of symptoms. This is would be my sixth time having COVID, so I'm a little familiar with how it goes. Um, so yeah, so I hope everybody's doing well. I hope that you guys are all planning for the future, trying to come up with the things you want to do to to make your writing business work in 2025. So, and I'm guessing a lot of people are kind of like uncertain about a lot of things, like how much do you really want to use Facebook anymore for advertising? How much do you even want to use Amazon anymore? Or are you just like totally okay with both of those things, but maybe worried other people aren't? We can definitely talk about that. I have a bunch of thoughts on those subjects, and we can sort of see where you're at. So I've got a couple people here who are watching. Jill's watching. Hi, Jill. How's it going? Peeps are here. It's always kind of iffy. Like when it works in the group, we get a lot of people in right away. But when it doesn't work in the group, everything's sort of like a little bit sporadic. Um, but I would love to hear from anyone who's around. Where are you? How's it going? It's snowing here today, which I'm very upset that we actually have. Yes, I am talking while you're watching. We had 10 years ago, we had Snowmageddon in Massachusetts where we got 10 feet of snow in like 4 weeks. And it stayed until June. Like there were snow piles still piled up around in June. Um, and ever since then, winters have been super mild. And then we got this winter, which is just like, screw you, memories of Snowmageddon. I mean, not literally, I don't think we even have, I don't think we even got a foot of snow, but it's not going away. It's falls and then it stays. I'm not pleased about that. But I'm curious if anyone watching uses Facebook for advertising their books and is uncertain if they want to keep doing that because they're not so sure they want to keep giving money to companies like Facebook. I'm curious if that's something that's on anybody's mind. Um, and it might not be because of something like the fact that you didn't like seeing something that Zuck did, but it might also be because Facebook, their recent carve out in their TOS that basically says you can't call people things like mentally disabled unless they're queer. Then you can call them mentally disabled. Like there's actual specific carve outs in the TOS to mistreat queer people. Um, and then having that happen a lot at the same time as things like the government taking out the T in LGBT across all government properties, sort of makes things start to smart after a while. So that might be one of the reasons why some people are thinking about not using Facebook. And like so other people might not want to be using Facebook because we're all getting a little bit tired of giving all of our money to large mega corporations, and to people who are richer than many small countries. So that could be it too. I made a post about this not too long ago about how I personally intend to keep using Facebook. Um, Facebook is, the world's largest public forum. Um, Somewhere between 1/3 and 1/2 of the human population uses a Meta property every month. And sort of stepping away from that removes you from a large part of the public discourse or reaching a lot of customers. And I kind of feel like in a certain way, the steps that some of these companies are taking are intended to push certain people off the platform to minimize those voices. And my decision has been, I will not be minimized. I'm not going away. I'm not going to make myself smaller or anything like that. So I intend to stay um, visible and where I am. I intend to be seen, and I'm not going to leave these major platforms. Now, that doesn't mean that they might not do something in the future that might be like a bridge too far for me. But for right now, I am, Facebook for me is the most cost-effective way to get new readers for my books. Every other way that I've used for my books and for many other people's books as well is more expensive than Facebook. So why would I make my life harder just to give certain people what they want? So I'm going to stay on Facebook. I'm going to stay on Instagram. I'm going to stay on Threads. But I'm also going to go on to Blue Sky, and maybe reactivate my Tumblr account or something like that, and diversify a bit. There are also places like Pinterest. Pinterest is actually still one of the for the English speaking world is still, I think, in the top 10 social media platforms. So you could also like investigate more, spend more time in Pinterest. And depending on what you write, Pinterest can actually be like a really good place to market and to spread the word. But who else watching? We've got like the quietest group here so far today. There's no one dropping comments or anything. Who's here? I mean, I know Jill's here. Jill doesn't want me to be quiet. Jill likes me being noisy, which works for me because I am a generally noisy person. I'm gonna try kicking this stream in one more time over onto our Facebook group, see if I can get that to actually happen. Hey, it's James and Stan. I don't know if we have a video up on Pinterest in our classrooms anymore. I don't know if we do. I've done Pinterest videos in the past in classes on how to use Pinterest. Um, I don't know that your readership is there, James, on Pinterest. It might not be a huge platform for you, um, but it might be. You never know. I know people, especially people who do stuff with like more spiritualism and more crafty, cozy kinds of stories, do super well on Pinterest. Um, hey, Victoria, how's it going? So, yeah, that's kind of my thought is I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving the major platforms. I mean, I love Twitter, but that's because Twitter is just a cesspool, and also because Twitter is so overrun by bots that your chances of actually interacting with humans there is like kind of slim. So if you try to do a lot of marketing and stuff like that, you're going to get more activity from bots, and they can then skew the algorithm on you, and you think that you're making traction, and you're not. You're just getting traction with more and more bots. So Twitter is not, even if you're okay with Twitter on a philosophical basis, it's not a great place to do marketing for the kind of stuff that we do. Yeah, definitely not you, James. Oh, Victoria, I'm nowhere near 100%. I'm like 60% right now. 60% Mallory. I had to move. I'm sure you might have seen the post. I had to move the writing sprints this afternoon until tomorrow, just because I don't have a ton of juice right now, and I was pretty sure I would just fail halfway through the sprints. So, and by fail I mean like give out. Pardon me. Just talking about not feeling well apparently brought on a coughing fit. So I'm just quickly unplugging in my mouse because I just realized it's sad and angry. Its battery is about to die. But yeah, so that's some of my thoughts on yeah, it's a bummer there's no advertising on Blue Sky, and there's also still no advertising on Threads, which was supposed to come by the end of last year, but it didn't. Apparently, they are rolling out a select advertising beta on Threads right now, so it might be coming soon. But yeah, automating posting on Blue Sky with Metricool is definitely um, something to do. And I think the neat thing is that for a while now people sort of been floundering around what the alternate platform for I don't want to do business with billionaires is, and it does seem like Blue Sky has really solidified in as that. Um, so I'm glad that there's finally sort of becoming another place. But I'm a pretty big fan of Threads as well, and you can get pretty good following on Threads with text only. And that's like the biggest thing about Threads that I really like is that if you post things with images, they don't do that well. But if you post like story time type stuff, it does really well. People want to read stuff on Threads, which I like a lot. Metricool is software for managing posts on multiple platforms at the same time. So you make one post and it puts up on all the different platforms. You can manage engagement interactions without having to log into a dozen different things. I think that's what it is. I've actually not used it, but I'm pretty sure that's what Jill uses it for. There's a lot of different programs like that out there, but that's the one that Jill likes. So I'm curious if anybody else has any thoughts on that. If anyone's been like feeling like might not want to use some of these platforms anymore. I'm curious if anyone who's on right now does a lot of stuff on TikTok and how that's been going. I haven't really been TikTok got shut down and then came back, and then I had surgery. So I'm a little bit. I'm like, has my TikTok stuff been doing all right? I don't even know. So curious if anyone's been still pushing hard on TikTok and how that's been going. I'm taking a peek. No, actually, TikTok seems to be kind of moving along at about the pace it was before, to be honest, which isn't so bad. So if you are TikTok, I mean my TikTok account at least, obviously that's a sample size of one. Um, that's actually good to see though that people haven't abandoned the platform and it's still there. Like as much as I'm not personally a huge fan of TikTok, I don't like the way their algorithm works. I find their recommendation engine to be actually really bad. There are people who make a living off TikTok, and I don't want anyone to have their living stripped away from them. I've never run TikTok ads. TikTok ads though work the best for selling things on TikTok. um, I don't even know if they have a fully open source platform where you can sell things that aren't on TikTok. I don't know that you can. Jill actually would know better. Jill has run TikTok ads to sell things on TikTok, and it can work really well for that. I know this one author. She sells print books via TikTok ads, and she had to hire 3 people to help fulfill the print book business. And the interesting thing is she doesn't just sell her own print books. She finds author books that she thinks will sell well, all indie, and then makes TikTok videos and TikTok ads about them and sells them on her TikTok store and makes money that way. So it's definitely something they can do really well. But TikTok is like a big investment time-wise. It takes a lot to understand, and they have a deeply Byzantine system when it comes to setting up a shop. But it's a time investment, but the interesting thing though is that it's a time investment for selling print, which in a way is like it's an untapped market for so many of us because we don't sell that much print. So definitely, if you want to ramp up your print sales, setting up a TikTok shop and getting that going around TikTok ads can absolutely be a great thing to do. Sorry, didn't want to share my sniff with everybody, so I had to mute there for a second. 6 figures a day? I don't even know who that is. That's incredible. That must be a shit ton of logistics, though, to do that. Hey, Rosa, how's it going? We started a bit late today, too. I had a call that ran right up to the top of the hour, and then I need to refill the water and everything. I am, by the way, feeling quite a bit better. I feel like I'm 90% recovered from the surgery and like 70% recovered from COVID. So doing pretty well. Although the surgical recovery is like, it's another 2 weeks before I can even sleep on my side. And I tell you, I am dying to be able to sleep on my side. I cannot wait to sleep on my side. And I still have like a lot of muscle pain around my waist and stuff like that. It's still pretty sore. Yeah, I'm good, honey. Hey Sherry, how's it going? Yeah, the China tariffs, that's an interesting thing. I don't know if they're going to have a huge impact. Um, and tariffs are weird too. Like apparently some of the rules is there's like there's like percentages of made in given countries. So like I know for example people who um, make products in Canada, but they import like a lot of the materials, like even semi-finished things like zippers and whatnot from China. They're still going to get tariffed coming into the United States because their finished product contains things that are country of origin China. So it's complicated. I think I'm not worrying too much about the tariff stuff from China because I really do feel like it's going to shake out. Although I tell you, the one thing that I'm really quite curious about is how, like, in the United States we have this exemption, whereas if you import something that's less than $800, you don't have to pay any import duties on it, and they've done away with that, which changes like so much about how we all operate in this country, how we just sort of like order anything on the internet from anywhere and don't have to worry about getting a bill when it shows up in the mail. But that's going to change. That's a big one. Um, I don't like the isolationism that promotes either. I'm not super keen on that. So Victoria says, so Mal, are you saying I should talk about my books on Threads to gain interest? I think what you need to do on Threads is you need to gain um, interest around you, not your books. You have to build like a brand around yourself, and you tell stories from your books perhaps as a part of that brand, or you talk about why you're writing. You can't just sort of say like, hey, I have a book about XYZ and expect to gain traction. You need to sort of build it around yourself, like, hey, this is who I am, this is my life experience, this is what I bring to the table. And you could do it also maybe through commentary on social issues or current issues, or even just things that happened in your life. Like this one time, I went on a date with this guy and he said XYZ, and that really got me thinking. Like that kind of post. And maybe not a date with a guy, maybe I went out with my girlfriends, or I was on an airplane and someone said something to me. Like that sort of content um, works super well on Threads. And then you build up a brand around yourself, and then you promote your books, sort of as follow through on that. Yeah, that just when just as they closed that loophole, that's the thing I was talking about. Where I forget what name it had. It starts with an E or something like that. Um, where you can basically import things. I hate that they did that. Like, that was one of my favorite things about living in the United States, was that we could just import stuff from anywhere as a citizen. You don't have to worry about pay tariffs and taxes. It's awful. Which is going to, by the way, decimate Temu and Shein and Wish and AliExpress and stuff like that, because that's how their entire business models operated, that they were shipping things underneath that threshold, and then there was no tariffs and taxes for anything coming into the States. Yeah, it really definitely is virgin territory. I think the best thing with Threads though is to use it as a user. That's the most important thing when you're going into any new platform. You can't just sort of jump into the platform and be like, I'm going to start marketing and advertising on here and make a bunch of money. You need to use it as a user and see like what content gets engagement, what content doesn't get engagement, what content do you enjoy engaging with and not. And that can help guide you, toward what you actually want to produce. Good old Sheen, I guess. I'm reading Sherry's comment here. That's sort of tongue in cheek. Should I build a brand about being in the late 50s, early 60s, and moving to the UK for a creative writing MFA and writing books, or tell the story that I came over for a guy whose marriage wasn't as dead as he told me it was? I know it's the first one. I think that both of those are great. Um, like that's really interesting. Let's open up threads here. I'm going to see if I can find a good thread without having to dive too deep. Um, threads, just to give you guys an idea of like what actually like works on threads. Okay, actually look at this. First thing right here on threads. What was the second thing? Present, share screen, share. Oh, actually, let me move this to another spot and change its size so it's not like this big long. Nope, that's my other page. I don't want to share that. I want to share this. Not that I'm bothered by anybody seeing that. That was my Instagram. Share screen. Window. This one. Share. See if I can bigger this a bit. So I don't even know what this is. All I saw that it had 1,700 likes. I saw a gruff guy smoking outside his car when I parked today. His red shirt said, "I'd cuddle you so hard." I looked at him, pointed his shirt, and asked, "Are you ready for this?" He took a long draw of his cigarette, blew the smoke out as he flipped it away. "Hell yeah, brother." Biggest hug ever. We laughed and wished each other well as we walked away. But oddly enough, it made my day a lot better. So it was a dude hugging another dude. And that's right there, like one of the super popular story on Threads. So that's the kind of content that's doing well there. Stuff that feels like real and from the heart and tells an actual story. So that's the kind of thing that I think I would push for in making content on Threads. The other thing, let me just see if I can quickly find one scrolling along. I'm trying to not do a bunch of political content, which is obviously everywhere right now. All of these posts are like really short ones right now. Usually there's a lot of longer posts on Threads. Maybe it's because I just read things in the morning and that's when the long posts are out. I don't know. There are starting to be more pictures on Threads. For a while it was very picture light. Well, nothing's popping up right now with longer posts, but normally a lot of longer posts do really work. And then when you just like on Twitter, when you make a post and you sort of hit the character limit, you can like hit a button to just add, and you can actually like write out like multiple posts all in a thread. And then you'll like on each one you'll like at the end you'll put like 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3, so people kind of know where they are in your story. It's a pretty standard thing to do there. So hopefully that's like somewhat informative for people. But I tell you, there's people that are starting to like get a lot of traction, a lot of attention now on Threads. It's a really big thing. Hate using social media, but don't mind advertising. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to use it. You could just like you could just read it at least, just to get an idea for what kind of content would work there. You don't actually go and start posting on it and building friends and stuff like that. I mean, I guess on Threads you would. Threads is gonna, because there's no advertising. Threads requires you to actually interact with people, but it's different for different people. Like some people are like, you know what, I hate social media. I'm gonna pay money to run ads and not so I don't have to deal with it, and that's one way of doing it. Other people are like, you know what, I don't have as much money, or I'm having trouble making ads work for me. Then the other angle is do grassroots, beat the streets, and start building the readership a different way. Both of them requires an investment of either time or money, and a little bit of, I mean, everything involves a little bit of time. Victoria says, I'm about to launch into translating my books into French, and I've heard ROI is great. ROI right now is fantastic in French. I know people who are like earning their translation cost back in weeks. Well, if they're using AI translation, they're like earning their translation cost back in days in some cases, and then it's all gravy after that. It's really good. And they're not like, people aren't making like stupid money. They're bringing a book over into French, and they're making, you know, $5,000 to $8,000 off that book, which is like, you know, in English would not be a ridiculous amount of money either. It's a decent amount of money, but it's not like, you know, top tier money or anything like that. And if you were to pay a translator $5,000 to get your book translated into French, then that money would be break even. It's the AI thing decreasing the cost that's actually the thing that makes the French market and the German market whatnot so appealing right now. That you can make about the same amount of money you could a year ago, but your costs can now be like 1/100th, and that's where the money's really at. I actually do think that's happening, Rosa. Rosa says, do you think we might see a surge in book sales because of people trying even more to escape reality? I'm seeing reads going up a lot, actually. I saw a bit of a dip on the 20th of January, but then things surged, and people seem to be reading quite a bit right now. So I do think, yeah, that we might have people, a lot of people being like, okay, I'm full up on reality right now. I need some escapism to ground myself and get my mental state back in order. So yeah, I totally think that could happen. Yep, that type of branding strategy does also work on TikTok and Instagram, Sherry. Yes, but from like a low effort, just typing out word standpoint, Threads is just really good. You know, for that sort of thing. You have two really interesting stories there. You could probably tell so much. You could probably build a really big following. Like I kind of almost wonder, um, has this experience reinforced a feminist bent in you, Sherry? Because Threads is huge feminist community. I think you would posting those stories, you would get a lot of feminists following you. It'd be pretty interesting. Threads, I began following the Blossom Witch, and she's doing exactly what you're describing. Oh, that's cool, Victoria. That's awesome. Oh my God, yeah, Monique, you're like, you're swimming all the time. You know, AI for audiobooks is definitely coming along. Audio has always been a tricky thing, right? Because like it's always been one of these things where like I respect audio produced narrators. I expect people who are producers and all of that. All of that is work and should be compensated for. But at the same time, it's like, damn, why does it cost more money to get someone to read my book than it did for me to write it and get it edited? You know, it's been just prohibitively expensive, and sometimes it just doesn't feel right. And I guess part of it's because authors, we underpay ourselves, but we don't really have much of a choice a lot of the time. Um, but yeah, I think of all the elements of the author sort of sphere industry. Narrators are definitely one of the ones that are going to have really hard time at it because AI narration is getting so good, and you can even like use something like 11 Labs to actually like make an AI version of your voice. So it's not like you're taking someone else's voice; it's your voice, and you're going to use AI then an AI version of your voice to read your books, which is kind of cool actually. Hey, Cithros, how you doing? I suspect it would have reinforced your feminist bent, Jerry. Um, and I think that would play really well on Threads as well. Uh, and if that translates into your writing, then all the better. That would be absolutely fantastic. I'm going to mute and cough again for a second. All right, I'm back. I'm alive. I am so looking forward to being like actually just like normally healthy again. I think next week. I'm like, I'm feeling pretty optimistic. Although I also thought that this past Sunday, I'm like, on Monday, I'm going to feel great. It is currently Thursday, and I do not yet feel great. Now, James makes a really good point. Best thing about working with the narrators, you're buying a finished product. I give Joe a manuscript, and he gives me a ready to upload audiobook. And that depends like really where you are in your business too. Like one of the analogies I use a lot is imagine your car stopped on the side of the road and you need to move it for whatever reason. You know, you don't want it to be stopped on the side of the road, but it won't start. Well, an option to get your car moving is to put it in neutral and push. You know, provided you're not going uphill, you can move your car, or you'll move it backwards. You know, if it's on a hill. Um, I guess it depends which way the hill's going. You get my point. Is that you can move the car through brute force by getting out and pushing, um, and that can work when your car's stopped. However, if your car is moving at 70 miles down the highway, 70 miles an hour down the highway, or for my metric friends, about 115 kilometers an hour down the highway, and you want your car to start going faster, opening the door and putting a foot on the ground is going to be really bad for you. And in the case of someone like James, you know, you've got like a machine, you've got books rolling, you've got cover designers going, you've got narrators going, you maybe have translation stuff in the works, you've got an editor like going through your last manuscript or something like that. For you, it's all about time. You know, you're trying to reduce the amount of time it takes you to be involved in each one of these steps to keep your machine going and to focus in on doing the one thing that only you can do, which is to the actual writing of the book. And having to go through AI narrated stuff it would slow you down. It'd be putting your foot on the road at 70 miles an hour, and it's not a viable option for you. You're better off paying someone to do that because it's cost less money to pay them to do it than the opportunity cost of you not writing during that time frame. So that absolutely makes sense that you would want to go that way. There's also the element of like, would I hate doing this? With any given thing. If you'd hate doing it and it would be miserable and you would make excuses not to do it, then that's also something you shouldn't be doing, because you're not going to be efficient at it. Your time can be spent more efficiently. So yeah, all these different things are different for different people. I would totally use AI narration, I think, for some stuff, because I'm a little bit less particular about the narration than some people are. Some people are like, every word must be pronounced perfectly. Unfortunately, I signed with Tantor for my main series, and I don't get to hear the books until they're done, and their narrators pronounce all sorts of things wrong. And so I sort of like separated myself from this need for perfection when it comes to audiobooks. So I'd be a little bit more okay with probably less perfect audiobooks. But I guess that being said, I still have never done any. I did only one foray into AI narrated audiobooks. And my biggest problem for me is my books are formatted in such a way that the AI can't read it properly. And I really don't feel like reformatting my books, but I will eventually tackle that particular issue. But I do think it makes sense for everybody to really think about, like, where is my time best spent? Do I have, can I only write for 2 hours a day and then I'm exhausted, but I have spoons for doing social media after that? If so, great, then use that time to market, build a brand, and promote. If you're like, I can write for 5 hours a day, but then I have no spoons for social media, then do that and hire out the social media or use paid ads or something. It's all about us trying to find, the thing that works for each of us and is going to give each of us the best bang for our buck, and not have us hate what we do, right? Like, that's a big part of it. Don't force yourself to do things that are just going to make you miserable and dislike your job. If it makes you miserable, you got to then find something else. There's always another way to push yourself, to market yourself in a way that doesn't make you feel miserable and hate what you're doing. There's always another option. You don't have to, except for the writing. You have to do the writing, but other than that, there's nothing in this job that you have to do one particular way. There's always another way that you could do it. Victoria says, I've noticed the artwork on Facebook ads is really leveled up. Guessing it's Midjourney or something similar. Yeah, it's definitely getting a lot better. I think a lot of it's a lot less stock imagery. AI art is absolutely getting better these days. There's also Leonardo, Copilot does really good art now. Interesting side note, if you use Microsoft Copilot in Windows, that is the paid version of ChatGPT that you get for free in Windows, if anyone's looking to play around with stuff like that. You could also do this. I'd hire someone to listen to the finished audiobook if I'm using AI. Yeah, something to think about. I know someone who just paid their daughter to do it. They paid their daughter to take the book and run it through 11 labs, and then she was also tweaking the pronunciations and everything like that. And at the end, well, actually, because it was her daughter and happened in the same household, the author, she'd already heard most of it, so she knew it was good. She knew her daughter was doing a good job, and she could just put it out there. If not, she would have probably wanted to listen to the whole thing to make sure that it was good. But yeah, she hired the whole process out. Can absolutely do that too. And you have to think, like, how much money is it going to cost you? Because at a certain point, you're like, I probably could have got a narrator just to do it for that price. But there could be a sweet spot in there for sure. Victoria says, speaking of format, what's the best way to add artwork to the beginning of my chapters, flourishes, etc.? I'm seeing the new books I'm reading. I use Vellum for my books. I think Vellum has all that sort of thing built in, doesn't it? Where you can like add in graphics as your chapter headers. I always thought that was one of the main selling points of Vellum, that it's very easy to do that. I'm sure there's some videos on YouTube about how to do that. I personally have never used Vellum, so I can't tell you how to do that, but I do it in Word. And it's super simple. You can literally just copy and paste images right in. And then you just remove margins and make sure they're aligned properly and everything. It's a little bit trickier in Word. I believe it's easier in Vellum. Another option you could actually do too, though, is you can even use Draft to Digital has a formatting tool where you upload an EPUB and then you tell it what style you want it to put in, and it will format it with like section breaks and graphics at the tops of the chapters and everything like that for you. It's all completely free on Draft to Digital's website. So you can do that there too. Yeah, Alex, right there. She can give you a hand. Yes, I would agree. And I think a lot of that has to do with like what your resources look like as an author. I think if you can afford to use a narrator, and you're not just trying to dip your toe into narration, that the narrator will still give you more bang for your buck. In fact, like a really big thing is there's narrators who have bigger followings than authors on Audible. People will just basically, they love the way a given narrator narrates things, and they literally will follow the narrator, not the author. And in many regards, like good narrators are voice actors. They are actors. And just like we will watch shows because of given actors in them and not care so much about who the writer or director was, people are the same way with their narrators. So if you are going to pay to have a narrator, like a human narrator, narrate your audiobook, you want to find someone who narrates in your genre and does really well. Those are the people that will actually bring new readers all on their own. And that is a huge benefit all by itself, that you'll never get from using an AI. So definitely something to think about when you're evaluating these things. I would say though, like if you're like trying, like right now, if someone said to me, what should I do, translations or narration? I'd be like, translation, 100%. Use AI translation. Get your books in Germany, France, Spain, Italy, and you'll get way more bang for your buck right now for that than you will for narration. Unless you already have narration underway, then it's a different story. But if you're like trying to evaluate which of those two things you should dive into, it's translation over narration right now. I'm a Word girl. I love doing it. Word. My books are all pre-formatted. When I'm writing my book, that is actually how it's going to look in Word when it's done. Like, let's see, because I'm hardcore like this. Let's see. Well, it's got all the edits in it right now, but I'll show you anyway. Present, share screen. Word. So this is, yeah, so like this is my current book I'm working on. Here's my table of contents. You know, here's my, I mean, this is all placeholder stuff from a previous book, title, all that jazz. But this is a 5 1/4 by 8 book. So if I were to zoom out, you'll actually see the pages are already all pre-formatted for that. You know, this is centered. This is bottom of line. Table of contents is here. And as I go, you know, I just have to like right click and choose update table to update my table of contents. Boom, table of contents is updated. If anything, I've got all my jazz on the left-hand side. I can see all my chapters. I can drag and drop chapters into a new order. You know, it's beautiful. And then as I'm writing, I actually know, like, this is exactly how this will look in print. Oops, not that. But like this is how it will look in print. I know where the paragraphs are going to break. I know how the justification is going to look. And I'm a huge nerd about that. Like I want my pages to look a certain way, and I like seeing that as I'm actually writing it. You know, sort of seeing like how it's going to break apart and everything. I don't know. I'm weird like that. So like I write my rough draft is written in the final formatting because I'm weird. Do you put your translations into KU? I personally haven't done translations yet. I've been so focused on helping other people with their translations. I haven't done it for myself yet, but absolutely, yes. Everybody puts their translations into KU. I don't know of anyone who has not done that. What do you think is the next new hot genre? Oh man, Victoria, I do not have a crystal ball. Well, I do. It's just in the shop because it never works. They're giving it another upgrade though. At some point, it might come through. I don't. Here's the thing, like every genre has readers. It just depends. Like the smaller genres, it's a little bit harder to find your readers. I think if you want like a surefire thing, if you're like I need to write books and make money, then you know either need to write contemporary romance or thrillers, because you want to be most easily able to hit the broadest number of people, which is thrillers or contemporary romance. But you know, you might not be able to write that. Like I can't write a contemporary romance. I would get bored. I would kill someone in chapter 3 because I'd be like, no one's died. This is not interesting, and it would no longer be a contemporary romance. So you have to like find what's like the thing with the broadest appeal that you can write, and then for you, that's the hot new genre. And ideally, it should be something that's along the lines of what you've read before too, because you can't just dive into like I couldn't start writing, postmenopausal, cozy mystery, women's fiction kinds of stories. I've never read any of them. I mean, I guess I've read one or two, but I've certainly not read enough that I think I could do a good job at it. I don't think I know like the ways to hook people immediately and stuff like that. So I couldn't just jump in and do it. But science fiction, I've read like 3,000 or 4,000 science fiction books. I could write any kind of science fiction just like that. So there's an element of for any given person, like, what can you write and what do you have the most experience with, and for you that could be the new hot new genre. Because every niche out there has like a million readers at least, so there's always readership out there. It's just the more niche you get, the harder it is to find them, and the harder it might also be to target them with advertising as well. Got a cough again. All right. Dun, dun, dun. Adam says, once you have a template set in Word, it makes it easier to have consistency in the books. Yes. And that's the other thing too, is like, I've written so many books. I want them all to be formatted the same. And I also want it so that if I have to edit a book and change it, I literally just go in, edit that document you saw with whatever I want to change. And that is the file that gets uploaded as the ebook. And then I make a one small tweak to it where I update the table of contents to have the page numbers in it, and that's the print book. I don't have to go and take, I don't have to do something like where I write in Scrivener and then I put it into Word, and my editor takes it and they go through all the edits in Word, and then back into Scrivener and then into Vellum, because that's like, a recipe for disaster as far as I'm concerned. All those different steps introduce opportunity for mistakes. And then, of course, if you want to do updates or edits or changes or anything like that, then you've got all these different steps. I like having the fewest number of steps between me typing the word and it being available to people, which is why I use Word. I think it's the program that's the most versatile for all of that. He says, what do you think about large print books? You guys have all the questions today. I love it. Just like great, I feel like it's out of left field. And I love it. I love the out of left field things. I think if you're going to make a push for libraries, then large print makes a ton of sense. Libraries love large print. If you're just going to have a bunch of large print books and try to sell them on Amazon, you're not going to sell them. They're not going to move. It is shockingly cheap to produce like a 500-page, 8.5 by 11 book on Amazon. I remember when I did one, I'm like, wow, it's only costs like $12 to print, and it's like an entire ream of paper. There are rules though. Like, there's certain fonts that they prefer you use, and you have to use at least certain font sizes, and then libraries will pick you up and put you in their large print sections. But if you're not going to make a push to get your books into libraries and more printy things, then it's not a huge, not a super viable thing. What's the best way to format your book through Word? Do you have a lesson on it in school? There might be a video that we uploaded, because I've done videos on it before on how to format in Word. I don't know if we put them in school because they were quite old, but I mean, they're still going to be up to date. I'll check into that. I'll see if they're still out there. To be honest, wait, I got a cough. The template that I use in Word, I actually got from CreateSpace. For those of you who remember CreateSpace way back in the day, that was before Amazon did printing directly themselves. There was this company called CreateSpace, and then Amazon bought them, and then ran them as a separate company for eons, and then finally folded them into Kindle Print. But yeah, I started out just by using their templates. But if we don't have a video on formatting in Word, maybe I'll do one, because I'm a true believer in the Word ways. Yeah, Atticus is an option too. It's all online, and they do a lot of the formatting. Actually, the one advantage of Atticus is made by the same guys that make KDP Rocket. The cool thing about Atticus is it's all online. It can do all your final formatting, and it can handle track changes. You can your editor log into your Atticus account and make all their edits, and then you approve them. So it also stops that back and forth moving files around, stuff that I don't like. Do you sell a lot of large print? I'm really curious about that, Monique, because I know a few people who do it, and everybody knows that I think it's had like decent success. They do it by getting into libraries. I'm not familiar with anyone who actually does a noteworthy amount of it, like enough to make it worthwhile to do all the formatting work and everything on their website. But that'd be cool. Yeah, I mean, that could be something. I don't know if they want that. I mean, you could poll your readers. and ask them if anybody would be interested in getting a large print book. Do you think you have enough readers that would need that? I think if you want to do something special in your direct store, you should do a custom cover, because everybody would like that. Everybody loves new, cool, exclusive cover art. That's actually how I've made every single one of my Kickstarters work. It's unique, custom cover art that you can only get in one place. That's been like the foundation of every Kickstarter that I've done. Well, if it only takes like an extra minute to make one in vellum, then that would be pretty decent. It takes longer in Word to make them. It probably takes like 10 minutes to make one in Word. But then you've got now you've got to adjust the cover for the new aspect, because it's not going to be the exact same aspect ratio. And then you've got to make sure that everything scales nicely, and then you got to get the ISBN and you got to upload it and all that jazz. Like it's all those little parts of it that add up. And I just find it ends up being a bunch of work that I could have put into something else. But I don't know if you have a rainy day. I think part of it for me is when you have 130 some odd books, you're just like, oh no, I can't start down this path. I'll be doing it forever. Yeah, most of my readers are ebook readers as well, which is why it's the special art that I get them with. Because I'm like, hey, you don't want to have like a whole bunch of books on your shelf, but if you were to have one, here's this custom art one that no one else can get, and that can be like your representative. Here's the cool book thing going on, or I do posters or mouse pads or something with the art on it. I get them going. Oh, yeah, the ISBN is cheap. It's just filling out that form. I would rather jam ice picks under my fingers than going to my identifiers and filling out that damn form. Although you get cheaper ISBNs, and possibly, I don't even know what the process is like if you're in the UK. The process in the US it's terrible. It's so bad. It's such a miserable thing. I mean, and I bought like 1,000 ISBNs, so mine cost me about $1.50 as well. I just hate going to my identifiers and filling out that goddamn form. But it takes more than a minute, like there is that. Right? Oh, it's the worst, Victoria. It's the worst form ever. Oh, coughing again. Oh, sorry, because you're an expat, right, Monique? Am I remembering correctly? Um, I'm running out. I'm running out of voice actually, and things to say. But did anybody else say anything else that was on their mind? You are right about that, James. The new form is not as bad as the old form. It could be worse. It could be much worse. But it's like, man, if I'm going to do large print, I'm going to do my website. I'm probably going to put them on Ingram. And I got to go through Ingram. I've got to go through my identifiers. Oh, like those two things alone. That's like all my spoons for the day. Yeah. I mean, that's if you're kind of keeping up with it as you go along. I think I get that, Monique. I do. I think whenever I think about it for myself, I think about going back through 130 books and doing it, which is why I only did like 3 and then stopped. Oh, I hope I do too, Alex. I'm sure I will. I'm definitely on the mend. I'm feeling much more alive. Although after this, I'm going to eat some food and take a nap, because we've got, for people who are in our membership, we've got our call tonight at 5 Eastern, and I want to be like alive and awake for that. Yeah, I love these chats. They're super like emotionally and mentally invigorating for me as well. So I'm glad that we got to chat. And I hope people, you think about like where you are, where you're putting your money, and you think as well about like about how you don't want to cut off your nose to spite your face as well. Even though we might not like some of the platforms that we're using, if they're allowing us to reach our readers in the most cost-effective way, then we have to think about the fact that, like, sure, I'm giving money to Zuckerberg by doing something, but I'm getting more money for myself that I wouldn't get otherwise, and sharing my books with people that might not see them otherwise. So you can keep that in mind. It's like one of the metrics you might be using for when you're trying to decide what you want to keep doing. But I'm a huge fan of Threads, even though that's still also Zuckerberg. But I do think people should get on Blue Sky as well, and at least like claim your name and get going there. I think it's definitely going to take off and continue to grow as another platform, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. Awesome, Stan. That's great. The site that a lot of people are using that's working really well is Shadowscribe. They have a really good service, and you can also just do like a trial and upload some of your stuff and see how it goes. So it can work pretty well. All right. We'll see those of you who are coming to our mastermind call today at 5, and everybody else, I'll see you next week, next Thursday. Have a good one. Ciao. Oh, and I almost forgot. We are doing a free Facebook webinar next Saturday. So if you haven't heard about that, ping me or Jill, and we can send you the info to sign up for our free Facebook webinar next Saturday. All right. Ciao. See you, James. Tomorrow, that is. Yes.